Democrats and Dissenters, Ramachandra Guha. For the scholar-administrator Veeramani, a friend and guide for 40 years, and for Koshi's Parade Cafe, a second home for almost as long. No one can be a true nationalist who is incapable of feeling ashamed if her or his state or government commits crimes, including those against their fellow citizens. Benedict Anderson. Chapter 1. The Long Life and Lingering Death of the Indian National Congress. Some years ago, when the United Progressive Alliance, UPA, was in power in New Delhi, I found myself in a panel discussion on television with 3 politicians. One was a Congress Member of Parliament, MP, a second an MP from the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, the third the president of one of the regional formations. In the course of the conversation, I found reason to criticize the 3 netas for their sectarian stands. Yet, as the argument grew more heated, I found myself ignoring the others and turning on the congressman in particular. On my way home from the studio, I reflected on this partisanship of my own. Why had I been less harsh on the others? It may have been because from them a historian can expect no better. Despite its occasional disavowal of the Hindutva program, the BJP is a party of Hindu majoritarians, many of whose members tend to suspect and even demonize Muslims and Christians. For their part, the regional parties use the rhetoric of caste and linguistic discrimination mostly to advance the wealth and power of their leaders. The case of the Congress is different. This was the party that led the movement for freedom, the party that united India and brought people of different religions and languages into a single political project. Its finest leaders were not confined by national boundaries. They had a universalist vision, and they were men and women of high personal integrity. When confronted with the Congress of today, an Indian who knows some history cannot but be struck by the chasm between the present and the past. Hence the savagery with which I turned on the congressman in the television studio. Unlike the representatives of the BJP and the regional party, he should have known better than to defend dynastic rule, duck the question of the massacre of Sikhs in 1984, disregard the growing evidence of corruption in a Congress-led government, and so on. Despite what it has done to itself in recent years, the Indian National Congress is one of the great political parties of the modern world. It has a lineage and record of achievement comparable to that of the Liberal Party in Great Britain, the Social Democratic Party in Germany, and the Democratic Party in the United States. From its beginnings in 1885, its ambitions were immense. These contained in its very title, with the last definitive word indicating that it would not be sectarian, but embrace Indians of all shapes and sizes, castes and communities. In the first few decades of its existence, the Indian National Congress built a network of branches across the country. The most intense Congress activity was in eastern India, where the major figures included Surendranath Banerjee and Bipin Chandra Pal, and in western India, where the acknowledged stalwarts were Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Gopal Krishna Gokhale. With their sophisticated intellectual cultures, Bengal and Maharashtra were in the vanguard. But the Congress had a reach and presence in North and South India as well, as the names and influence of Lala Lajpat Rai and V.O. Chidambaram Pillai testify. By the time Mohandas K. Gandhi returned home from South Africa in 1915, the Congress was a genuinely national organization. Still, it had 2 serious and interrelated weaknesses. It was active only in the cities, and its debates and proceedings were conducted only in English. Given the shallow social base of the Congress, it was easy for the British to dismiss it as a front for lawyers and other English-speaking professionals seeking the loaves and fishes of office. Gandhi felt this criticism keenly and sought to refute it. First, he encouraged the Congress to function in the vernacular by forming provincial committees that operated in Marathi, Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Odia, and other languages of the people. Next, he brought in peasants and women, 2 groups that had previously been excluded from the proceedings. Third, he campaigned to abolish untouchability and to promote Hindu-Muslim harmony, to answer the charge that the Congress was a party of upper caste Kayasts, Baniyas, and especially Brahmins. Fourth, he worked to nurture a second rung of political leadership that would work with him in deepening the social base of the Congress and make it more representative of the nation in the making. In the short and medium term, Gandhi was successful in all but the third ambition. The rejection of colonial provincial categories, the Madras Presidency, the Bengal Presidency, etc., through the creation of local congresses based on language, proved to be a superbly effective link between the metropolis and the periphery. Through the 1920s and 1930s, the nationalist credo was conveyed through newspapers and magazines printed in languages other than English. The flow was not unidirectional. Rather, the concerns of the different linguistic communities were also brought to the attention of the All India Congress Committee, the AICC. Long before Amartya Sen, Gandhi had concluded that a person possessed multiple identities, and that it was perfectly consistent to be both Bengali and Indian, or Kannadiga and Indian, and so on. It was also Gandhi who brought the rural masses into the freedom struggle. Operating in the vernacular helped here, as did his dress and lifestyle, which resonated far more with the peasantry than had the turban and suits of an earlier generation of Congress leaders. Peasants played a notable part in the non-cooperation movement of the 1920s and the civil disobedience movement of the 1930s, although, as historians such as David Hardiman and Shahid Amin have demonstrated, they were motivated more by their own livelihood concerns, lower taxes, higher wages, freer access to forest and grazing resources, etc., than by abstract political categories such as nationalism and anti-colonialism. From the perspective of the modern feminist, some of Gandhi's statements about women appear to be less than emancipatory. He was opposed to contraception, for example, and decidedly ambivalent about the role of women in the workplace. At the same time, he extolled their character and goodness, and considered them more courageous than men. At first, he was hesitant to allow them to offer satyagraha, but his reservations were overcome by his independent-minded colleagues such as Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay and Sarojini Naidu. In the end, thousands of women courted arrest during the Salt Satyagraha of 1930 and the Quit India movement of 1942. Indeed, as Madhu Kishwar once pointed out, more women participated in Gandhi's campaigns than in movements led by any other male politician in modern history. In this respect, he was conspicuously more successful than ostensibly more modern and less chauvinistic leaders such as Lenin, Mao, and even Mandela. One of Gandhi's less noticed achievements was his ability to make leaders out of followers. Vallabhbhai Patel was given charge of building the party organization. Jawaharlal Nehru instructed to reach out to the youth and the world outside India. C. Rajgopalachari asked to take the Gandhian message to the south. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad told to take this message to the Muslims. The delegation of responsibility was also followed with regard to the constructive program. Thus, J.B. Kriplani was asked to establish Khadi centers. J.C. Kumarappa set to work on reviving the agrarian economy. Zakir Hussain charged with designing an educational curriculum. In later years, the trust reposed in them by Gandhi helped these individuals make substantial contributions to the political and cultural life of the nation. An appealing aspect of Congress nationalism was that it did not demonize the foreigner or the alien. Here, Gandhi and his colleagues were acting under the inspiration of Rabindranath Tagore, who made a necessary distinction between the nation of the West and the spirit of the West. The former had manifested itself in pillage and imperial exploitation and had to be resisted. The latter had promoted freedom of expression, equal rights for all, and the spirit of scientific inquiry. All this had to be made India's own. To be sure, there was often a slippage between the ideal and the practice. Dalits and Muslims did not always feel at home in the Gandhian Congress. Hence the appeal of rival leaders like B.R. Ambedkar and M.A. Jinha.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?